I'm like, then she just responded with something else a few minutes ago.
Let's call this meeting to order. Welcome to the September 16, 2025 standing committee meeting for the for House Finance. We'll bring this to order if we could take attendance.
Chair Tisdel.
Here.
Representatives Frisbie.
Here.
Vanderwall.
Present.
Leitner.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Posthumous. Alexander.
Here.
Aragona.
Here.
Schutte.
Here.
Hoskins.
Here.
Carter. Neely. Breen. Young. Pies. Mr. Chair, you have 10 members present. You do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Need a motion to adopt the minutes. Representative Schutte, thank you very much. With no objections, they're in. Today we'll start the hearings on House Bills 4799, 4431, and 4432. 4799, Representative Leitner and guests. Testimony. Okay, moving on. No. The floor is yours. Please introduce your guests.
Good morning, members of the esteemed Finance Committee. I have Randy from the Chamber and Lucas? Zach. Sorry, I'm terrible. I already got all my people messed up. Anyways, here to testify in support of House Bill 4799. Under current law in Michigan, property tax payments are not considered received until physically removed from the mailbox and physically accounted for by the employee of the relevant local government. If an office is not staffed on a particular day or even at the right time, property tax payments that would otherwise be received may not be received for several days or even weeks, resulting in a determination of a late payment. And this is even the case for certified mail, because certified mail has to have somebody sign for it. And there are times that when payments are sent way in advance, someone isn't there to actually receive it. And so then the payment goes back to the taxpayer. So House Bill 4799 aims to modernize the process of paying property taxes and puts Michigan in line with most of the country on when payment is deemed paid. The postmark date would determine payment versus receipt date, and this applies to property tax payments and formal communications. With that, I'll let Randy from the Chamber start.
Thank you, committee members, Chair. Hopefully you can hear me well. Appreciate the time to be here today and the representative sponsorship of this bill. This is an important issue for us. So again, Randy Gross, Michigan Chamber of Commerce. This has been a developing issue kind of post-COVID, quite frankly, for us, where we have a number of members and taxpayers in general where they're submitting tax payments, property tax payments to the local unit of government. For various reasons, they may not arrive on time. This could be mail, this could be part-time staff, facilities, this could be P.O. boxes. Like, we recognize there's a laundry list of reasons on why this could occur. However, it's our position that if a taxpayer pays their tax bill prior to the due date and it's postmarked and they can show that, they shouldn't be subject to any fees or interest that are associated with that payment. So we're not trying to change the rate that they pay. We understand there's complications and not everything is in control of the collecting authority, but we think this is kind of a piece that should be in line with taxpayer protection. This would also bring this practice, what's called the mailbox rule, in line with generally how every other tax is paid in the state of Michigan and all of our federal taxes in surrounding states. So this is not a new concept or a novel concept in Michigan. We know there are a few questions out there from the county treasurers. We've been working with them related to some reporting aspects. Again, we're willing to work with them on the reporting aspects. We're not trying to change anything on them and put any additional burdens on them, but we do feel at the end of the day, our line in the sand is if it's postmarked and we can show that we've paid our payment on time, then we shouldn't be subject to fees or interest. Alternatively, I would say, the easiest fix to this is probably electronic payment, but we recognize that's not widely available throughout the state at the local level. So with that, I also have with me a member of ours, ITC Holdings, Zach Matthijs. We got it right? He can talk to some specific examples where they have submitted property tax payments and what's happened and how they've tracked it to demonstrate kind of this developing and ongoing problem now.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee, for allowing me to provide testimony today. Again, my name is Zach Matthijs. I'm the Director of Tax for ITC Holdings Corp. We're an electric transmission company. In recent years, this issue has become increasingly prevalent. It's not bound to a certain size locality or region of the state. Rather, it's starting to become more widespread. ITC consistently mails its payments a month before the due date to ensure that they are received on time. However, we're starting to run into this issue several times every year with several different examples of why. Some examples are payments are sent to some jurisdictions certified to their P.O. box. We've experienced jurisdictions assessing interest and penalties saying that it was not in hand on the due date, even though we can prove that was delivered to the P.O. box before the due date. It just wasn't picked up. We also regularly track our payments as well. We've had multiple instances where the post office has attempted to deliver the mail, but was unable to as there was no way there to receive it. So knowing that some of our townships have limited hours and time and staffing, sometimes they're not there to receive the mail. We also track our payments to see if they've been cashed or not. And when they have not, we reach out to local jurisdictions to try and resolve the issue before it becomes one. However, most frequently, we cannot get in touch with these individuals before the due date because of the nature of part-time and or remote work in large portion of jurisdictions across the state. In these cases, we don't find out that they haven't received a check till after the due date when interest penalties are being assessed. So prior to 2020, it seems like we have more success working with jurisdictions on getting penalties waived. But now it seems more and more jurisdictions aren't waiving penalties and interest anymore. And again, this is typically the time frame from the due date before March 1st. So we're not selling with the county, we're selling with the townships themselves. So sometimes I'll also say if you can drive it here today, we'll count it timely. But we have over 4,000 assessments and about 22,000 checks. And so it's impossible for us to drive everywhere. So that's it for my prepared remarks. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Okay. So Representative Leitner and Mr. Grosser both said that this would bring us in line with most of the nation, and I think you indicated surrounding states. Do we have a quantifiable picture of how many states are doing this and those around us?
All the states around us do the mailbox rule. That I can tell you for sure. I couldn't tell you across the country because there are a variety of approaches of how taxes are assessed. Some of them
Postmark rule.
The postmark rule, yeah. The mailbox, but postmark is generally called the mailbox rule. That's
Okay.
what from the federal. So most states, all the states in our area, in the Great Lakes, and all our neighboring states follow the mailbox rule. I couldn't speak to the whole country, though. That is the majority rule across the country. There's also, you have some dynamics where some states have centralized assessments, so the locals aren't even the ones doing the assessment. It's coming up centrally and then being dispersed out. So they're following state tax rules, which is generally the mailbox rule as well.
And so, and then you also brought up the point of perhaps electronic transfers. Some smaller communities might not have that capacity. Is there a way to subcontract that out to some other entity or maybe the county?
I'm unsure on that. That would be a great question if the counties or for the local units that are coming up to do. I wouldn't want to speculate on that piece.
Okay. Thank you very much. Vice Chair Hoskins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the one you asked one of my questions just about the scope of like how many other states are doing this. But also just, I'm just curious about like the grace period of it, of like, if you can clearly show that you have delivered this and it just wasn't picked up, like, I mean, are there places, one, I just want to make sure that Michigan, I mean, it has to be in by a certain time. And if it's not in, then that's that. Or do you have
Sure.
some time?
So I'll take a stab at trying to answer your question. So the way it currently works right now is the payment has to be received in hand, so in the office deemed, stamped received, however that determination is made. So if your property tax is due by February 14th, it has to be stamped and received by February 14th. If it does not matter when you mail it, okay, that it's irrelevant for property taxes only in Michigan. Every other tax, it's when you mail it, right? If you were to mail it, February 1st and it shows up February 21st, you are deemed late, and you will be subject to fees and interest for that 14 days, even though you mailed it the 1st. There's no provisions to waive that in state law. This is what this would be adding that language. So at that point, you would pay that to your local unit of government, whoever the tax assessing entity is at that time, township, city, whoever that is. Majority of the time, post March 1st, if the payment would arrive post March 1st, then you have to go to the county and you have to pay that tax because they're deeming you delinquent. And you will have to pay at the county level, subject to fees and interest again. And then that would be reimbursed down, however they do that through the local process to that piece. But under current law, there is no grace period for no fees or interest if you're postmarked before the due date.
Okay, and you just kind of touched on one of the concerns of just like, what if it doesn't get to whoever? What if it, it gets postmarked, gets lost in the mail, and it just never makes it to whoever it needs to make it to? And then you do get to that March 1st period where you now are delinquent, and then you have to go through the whole process of, so you're still, I understand that, like, and I definitely see the concern and want to address it. I just want to make sure that, there's a way for, it sounds like there's no mechanisms for you to even if you were to prove that, like, oh, here is, I got a time step, I got whatever I need to get from the post office, like, you still,
Sure.
It wouldn't matter.
No, it wouldn't matter in law. There are some, as Zach alluded to, and I think others would talk to, there are probably individuals that will work with you and say, this was reasonable and you should have been waived, but there is no requirement to do that. So that's what the legislation would do, is the goal is to say that if you submitted your payment and it was postmarked prior to the due date, now by law, you would be able to have those fees and interest waived if you could show that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Representative Vanderwall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative, and both of you that are here to testify. I guess my question kind of gets a little bit back. I think we all know that the Postal Service is not the most timely as they used to be in the days of old, so we have seen some things change there. But my concern, from what I'm hearing from several of my county treasurers, is the reporting process that they have to, especially in the spring. And it's a statutory piece that they have to turn this in by a certain time. Well, if a payment comes in 4 weeks after, even if it was postmarked on the exact day that it was due, it puts them into a process of what do they do with that money, because technically their report's already been sent in, it's been tallied at the county level. So how do you say you're in discussions with them? What does that really mean? And how do we rectify this?
Sure. Look, I'm sympathetic to that issue, but I'm not sympathetic to the point where I think that's on the taxpayer who submitted their payment on time, right? I'm going to start with that. I think it's important that taxpayers, whether that be businesses or individuals, are protected when they submit their payment on time. Just like if you were paying your income tax to the state of Michigan or the IRS, you're protected if it's postmarked on time. That said, we're looking for a process that would be in statute that would say, okay, that happened, the county is now on the hook because they've gone through the reporting process and they want, it's deemed delinquent, so you have to go to the county level and pay. We're okay even saying, we recognize that, we'll go to the county and pay, but we want it in statute that we are not subject to fees or interest when we can show that we submitted that payment on time and that it showed up the 15th at the local unit of government, so the local unit of government kicked it back to the taxpayer then had to go to the county and figure out why, show this was submitted and paid, I shouldn't be subject to fees and interest. So we're sympathetic to that issue, and we want to work through that. And we're not trying to change their reporting, and I understand that's a complication. And I think there are some solutions of either backing up their reporting timeline, or quite frankly, the easiest would be saying, hey, we're just saying that if the taxpayer can show that they submitted their tax payment, postmarked by the due date, the fees and interest are waived.
Follow up?
Please.
Okay, I guess now it becomes an issue that we have to go, who's gonna hold these envelopes that are mailed in? Because the argument's gonna come of it, I paid it, I dropped it in the mailbox, it was due March 1, I dropped it in the mailbox on February 28. And now it's saying that it didn't get, I know that I'm already gonna be a day late because I'm putting it in the mailbox, but it's gonna be postmarked. Who's gonna have to hold on to all these envelopes? And when somebody says that, I'm sorry, but Kurt, you paid your taxes late. No, I put it in the mailbox. And we've got, I don't know how many people we're talking about, but now there's a burden of where do these envelopes get stored? Because somebody's got to prove that point too.
Sure, yeah. I mean, look, my easy answer is I think it's on the local unit of government to track the postmark date. I mean, the taxpayer is funding the local unit of government. So that's where I'm going to start. But we're even willing to say, hey, we understand the burden is on the taxpayer to demonstrate that they submitted it on time. So if I have certified mail and I submitted it, I have a receipt that shows when I sent it, right? I can provide that proof and evidence. So if I want to make sure, if I want to be, 100% sure of what's going on, there are several ways as the payer to track your payment so that you can demonstrate that you submitted on time. And we recognize that that burden is probably going to be placed on us.
All right, thank you.
Representative Frisbie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and everybody's testifying. Just a statement about electronic payment, and that automatically adds 3.5% to your bill, which can be pretty expensive if you're ITC, I would imagine. Yeah.
So
credit
just for
cards, right?
clarification, wire transfers do not have that percentage on
Right.
there, but credit cards do.
Yeah, I should have said that. Thank you for clarifying that. The other thing would be, I don't think the only process, and I agree with what you're saying about who holds it, but I think if you're making a determination that they're late, you should have a reason to do that, so the local government should have the onus to say, here's the postmark date, it's late, right? But it doesn't create more process for a county treasurer. They already get payments past the deadline. So there's, in that March 1st report or March 31st report, really nothing changes. They already have processes in place where they have to go back and change their reports on an ongoing basis. So I don't think we cause them a whole lot of extra work there. It's that, but bringing it in line, for me, I think is probably a good thing for the taxpayer. Thanks.
Seeing no other questions, thank you. Wishing to speak in opposition of the bill, Judy Allen, Michigan Townships Association. Ms. Allen. And if Mr. Fox, Alan Fox, is in the room as well, come on up. Also in opposition of the bill, Ingham County Treasurer, Michigan Association of County Treasurers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Finance Committee. Judy Allen, Michigan Townships Association, and I am here to testify in opposition to 4799. Similar legislation was introduced last session, and we worked with the bill sponsor, obviously a different party at the time, but we worked with ITC and the Chamber and the sponsor. Unfortunately, we weren't able to reach an agreement in the time period that existed. There were things that were discussed that have been asked today or discussed was certified mail or a time period, et cetera. But, first of all, I will say we recognize the concerns that have raised, and we're not stating that local governments that we're perfect, nor am I here in any way, shape, or form to attest to the perfection of the U.S. Postal Service. So I just want to say that, property taxes are due the same date, same time every year. There's no guessing when these are due. And so if a taxpayer makes a good faith effort at a timely payment, and you don't wait till the last minute, if I wait until the due date to put it in the mail, it's not going to get to my local unit in that time frame that's required. Also, the statute right now allows, it's a May, 7 calendar days in which the locals have some flexibility for that, to receive that and using the postmark. So this bill removes that flexibility that exists right now, and it changes it to a must and with no period of time. Again, I will just say that we, as a local unit of government, our association, we're not responsible for the U.S. Postal Service, nor are you as state legislators. You have the authority on the, to deal with it. And additionally, private businesses, utilities, others, they're not, that I'm aware of, held to that standard of placing the postmark as the due date. If I'm late in mailing my utility bill, I don't think they're going to look at the postmark to say whether or not that works. So it's unfair from our perspective to hold local units accountable for any delays or returns from the Postal Service. Just a couple examples in talking with some of our members last year when we worked on this legislation, and again this year, we had one official share that it took 60 days for a property tax payment to get 2 miles, and that was through the Postal Service. Another person shared that they had mailed something was mailed to them in February of 2020. They received it October 29th of 2024. So these are just things that
was late.
Yeah, definitely late. Another concern we have is a lot of times when we receive mail, there's no postmark, or the postmark is indiscernible. That is a huge issue. I've experienced things just mailing things and getting them back where you can't see when it was postmarked. So that is an issue. And even if we do hang on to the envelopes, as Representative Vanderwall mentioned, that's an administrative burden. But it is going to be, what if we can't tell when it was mailed? The other thing is it may encourage some filers. Think of and I'm not trying to pick on any disparity here, but your mortgage companies. They hang on to those escrow taxes as long as possible. So if this says you just have to show that it's postmarked by this deadline, they're going to hold on and then mail those payments out or submit those payments and gain interest on that. That is not a good thing to have in place because, again, we're going to get the onslaught of that from taxpayers at the very end. And I hate to use this example, but we have seen it happen where you could have taxpayers game the system. You do not have to have a sealed envelope when you put it through your postage meter. We have a postage meter in our office. Ours seals, but you can choose to not seal it. So I could, if I chose, run a number of envelopes for my payments through the postage meter, and they would be stamped, the due date. But I may not insert the checks or whatever I want to mail out until a later date. We are then held accountable for something that you absolutely have a taxpayer who is not following the intent of the law. And then again, there's been reference, and I'm sure certain county treasurers will attest to this as well. We have hard line statutory deadlines, especially when you're looking at the tax payments that due in February. We have a limited period of time where the local treasurers must reconcile the tax roll and turn it over to the county in terms of that. And we have those deadlines because it's for due process. Now, I know Treasury's here, and I will not speak for them, but you may want to speak to them if they want to change the whole statutory timeline on the property tax. So with that, I will just wrap it up and say, another question that we do have is the language is expanded from last year in the first part, and it's talking about other communications, and we're not really sure what that means, so we have some curiosity in that. But I'm happy to answer any questions and continue to work on this legislation.
Seeing none, Mr. Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Alan Fox. I'm the treasurer of Ingham County, so welcome all of you from elsewhere in the state to, I tell my kids I have powers here. Power to speak at this point. And I'm speaking on behalf of the Michigan Association of County Treasurers. We certainly understand the problem that's been cited. And we run into that as county treasurers as well. We know local units do as well. It's an issue, a combination of issues that have to do with the Postal Service, have to do with our many smaller jurisdictions, especially having limited staffing, limited resources. Unfortunately, this bill does not solve any of those problems. It's not designed to solve those problems. We oppose the bill because the changes to the General Property Tax Act further complicate the annual March 1st settlement of property taxes. And I want to highlight that in my testimony because we've heard that most other states allow postmarks. Most other states do not have the features of the property tax system that we do in Michigan, where the local unit bills the taxes and turns the roll over to the county on a fixed date for collection of delinquent taxes, and most importantly, for the county to reimburse all the taxing authorities as quickly as possible after March 1st so that all of our taxing authorities are made whole. This legislation will delay and confuse that. It will make it more difficult. It'll tie up resources. We spend in our office a lot of time in March and April reconciling the statements from the 24 jurisdictions that are in Ingham County, figuring out exactly how much is due to each jurisdiction and each taxing authority. We have something like 175 different accounts we need to reconcile across our school districts. We have 5 intermediate school districts in Ingham County. All of our school districts have multiple funds, a general fund, a construction fund of some sort, and so do many others. All of those need to be reconciled to the penny, so that the county may reimburse those funds and make sure that our local units, and the state of Michigan as well, because the SET is one of these, to make sure that all of those taxing authorities have what is due to them, while at the same time we're processing delinquent tax payments. The local units of government are required twice a month, as they receive payments from the taxpayers, to forward that money on to to all the taxing authorities. The county treasurer does not do that. We do not pay as we receive. We pay, in our case, by June 15th each year. And those are hard deadlines in the statute. I recommend that the committee look at all of the different hard deadlines in the statute to see what the implications of this bill will be for meeting those obligations. I wasn't looking for any, but I happen to be looking for something else in the statute to answer a different question from one of my local units. Section 45 of the General Property Tax Act. All taxes shall be collected by the several township and city treasurers or collectors before the first day of March in each year, period. Section 54, within 20 calendar days after the time specified in his warrant, so within that day, the township treasurer or other collecting officer shall pay to the county treasurer all state and county taxes collected, and within the same time shall make his statement of unpaid taxes upon real and personal property as required in Section 55, which I didn't read at the same time. These are all in the statute. They're all implicated by the legislation. We don't have any problem, and I'll end up disagreeing with the Townships Association on this question. There are 2 due dates in the statute. One is in September. It's either the 1st or the 14th. City charters can make it a different date. The other is a hard one, February 14th. First one for summer bills, second one for winter bills. If the intent is that a postmarked payment that crosses over that date not be subject to the penalties and interest that follow that are assessed by the local unit, that doesn't have any issue with us. It doesn't affect that handover of the tax roll. But anything that carries the process over past March 1st will cause serious issues for the ability of the counties to reimburse the local units and to further the collection of the payment.
Okay. Well, thank you for your testimony, and I see no questions. Let me read in cards. Not speaking in support, Mike Johnston, Michigan Manufacturers Association. Not speaking in support, Sean Cecil, Michigan Realtors. Not speaking in support, Tony Macesso, ITC. Not speaking in support, Amanda Fisher, NFIB. Not speaking in support, Doug Roberts, Consumers Energy. Not speaking in support, Drew Bordsley, Michigan Realtors Association. Not speaking in support, Andrew Martin Meyer. Not speaking opposing the bill, John Lamakian, Michigan Municipal League. Not speaking opposing the bill, John Shea, Attorney Manager, City of Wyoming. Not speaking opposing the bill, Joe Snyder, Chief Financial Officer, City of Rochester Hills. Thank you all very much. Next, House Bills 4431 and 4432. Representatives Bierlein and Vice Chair Frisbie. Begin. I want to introduce your guest as well.
Scott Brooks is the fire chief, Representative Frisbee's guest.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm here today along with Representative Frisbie to speak on our bills that would create a refundable income tax credit for volunteered and paid on-call firefighters and EMS personnel. My bill, House Bill 4431, focuses specifically on volunteer and paid on-call firefighters. Volunteer firefighters and EMS personnel serve our communities in much the same way as their full-time counterparts, but without the steady paycheck or salary. They take on the same risks, they undergo the same training, and they sacrifice their time and energy to keep our neighborhoods safe. For small fire departments and life support agencies across Michigan, especially in rural areas like my district, these men and women are the backbone of their staffing. Unfortunately, across the state, we are seeing a decline in the number of volunteers. Small departments with limited budgets are struggling to meet staffing levels, and this shortage threatens both response times, the safety of our communities, and the safety of the responders. We need to act now to encourage more people to step forward and to support those who are already serving. House Bill 4431 would provide a refundable income tax credit of $2,500 to eligible volunteer and paid on-call firefighters. To qualify, an individual must complete at least 10 hours of active service per month and not be compensated with an hourly wage or salary. Importantly, reasonable reimbursements for expenses do not disqualify them. This ensures that the benefit goes directly to those who are truly serving in these roles. We believe this incentive will help offset the financial and time burdens these men and women take on, and it sends a clear message that Michigan values their service. Just as importantly, it can help recruit new volunteers and paid on-call responders into these critical roles that in some communities can make the difference between a timely emergency response or none at all. This is a common sense step that we can take to strengthen our public safety infrastructure, support the selflessness of our neighbors, and ensure that our communities remain safe and protected. And with that, I'll turn it over to Representative Frisbie.
Thank you, Chair, and all the members. And Rep. Bierlein. Same issues for EMS that Rep. Bierlein just stated. Same hourly requirements, all of those things in the same place for volunteer EMS. In my lifetime, I've been a volunteer EMS provider and I've been a volunteer fire provider. So I understand the importance of this. And you have to look at what happens with those folks. Sometimes their employers let them go, take them off the clock. Understandable. They're not producing what they're supposed to for their employer, and the employer graciously lets them go. So this is a way to encourage folks to be able to do it, because a lot of people say, I can't afford to be a volunteer firefighter or a volunteer EMS guy or gal because I can't afford to leave work. So this would help offset some of that. They also destroy, if you're a volunteer fireman, I've destroyed more clothes than I ever dreamed of getting reimbursed for as a volunteer firefighter. They just absolutely, you can destroy a set of clothes in a house fire really fast. So I would support this bill as well, and hope that you can. House Bill 4432, which would benefit all the volunteer EMS folks in Michigan. Any questions?
Chief, anything?
Good morning. My name is Scott Brooks. I am the fire chief for Mattawan Fire District in Mattawan, Michigan. I'm also the president of the Van Buren County Fire Chiefs Association. Mattawan Fire District is a fire and EMS. We provide both and completely 100% volunteer. One of those things, trying to explain to people that we get up in the middle of the night and go and help our neighbors for no pay or anything else like that, is one of those things that people just don't understand in this day and age. So when we first started talking about this bill, to look at a couple of different things, one of the options is to not only help the men and women that are out there doing it, but also the other side is to look at recruiting. Just like everybody else, I'm sure you've heard on every other committee anywhere, is the ability to recruit and bring more people in is dwindling, specifically in the public safety, the arena, police, fire, or EMS. If you ask somebody to do firefighting or EMS training and the continuing ed credits, and you explain to them, I really want you to do this, but I really don't want to pay you, it's one of those things that really is not a great recruiting tool. So having an opportunity where we can say, hey, if you are coming and you are being a part of this and you are doing what you need to do and you are fulfilling your responsibilities, that we would like to give you an incentive, I think is a huge thing, and I know that it would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, and just one clarification. You brought up paid part-time, but they would only receive the refundable paid on call. They would only receive the tax credit for volunteer work for another jurisdiction, correct?
A lot of departments, and maybe the chief can chime in on this, have gone to, my apologies. There are truly a lot of volunteer fire departments still out there. And then there are some agencies that are going to a paid on-call format where you would get a stipend for a service run,
Right.
But it's not a regular salary. It's not a hourly wage. It's a, you responded to this fire call and you get $25 or something. 20.
Okay, so it would be a tax credit for both paid on call and
Yes.
volunteer. Okay. My mistake. Questions?
Carter.
Representative Carter?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, gentlemen. So would that $2,500 be prorated based on the amount of time that, it says 10 hours per month. So there may be some months that you don't, vacation or whatever. So is that 25 the max, or is it just across the board?
Across the board, and it takes into account the required training time and continuing education credits for EMS folks, and the training time now that's mandated by the state of Michigan to remain an active firefighter. So it takes into account of that, and if you don't meet those requirements, you're not eligible. Is that
Exactly what Representative Frisbie just said is the continuing ed credits for your bare minimum EMS credits are a certain amount every month or every year. And then if you're looking at the bare minimum for fire training as well, you have to meet so many bare minimum 24-hour credits for the entire year. So those 24 credits don't take into effect if you are a instructor or if you are an officer or anything else like that, where you're the one that's leading the rest of the group to do those kind of trainings. That's additional hours that you have to have, credit hours by the state of Michigan every year. So again, my department, if looking at me as the chief and looking at my EMS and all of my credits, I have to maintain 111 credit hours every year for continuing education credits. So that is classes, trainings, online trainings, and all of those for my role as the chief. As a very basic 20-year-old firefighter that has a very basic EMS, they need to be maintaining about 36 credit hours a year. If you have an enhanced license for medical or fire in any way, then you have to have more credits after that.
All right. Seeing no more questions, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Votes.
Oh, couple cards.
Oh, cards. Well, this is this is for the cards on the vote for House Bill 4747. Not wishing to speak in opposition of the bill, Peter Mormon, Department of Treasury. Not wishing to speak in support of the bill, Kyle Innes, Securities Industry and Financial Markets Association. We heard from him last week. I need a motion to move this bill along. Representative Vanderwall, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
On the motion to report, Chair Tisdel.
Yes.
Representatives Frisbie.
Yes.
Vanderwall.
Yes.
Leitner.
Yes.
Martin. Yes. Posthumous. Okay. Alexander.
Yes, no.
Aragona.
Yes.
Schutte.
Yes.
Hoskins. Carter.
Pass.
Neely. Breen. Young. Pies. Mr. Chair, you have 8 yea, 0 nay, 3 pass. The motion prevails.
House Bill 4747 is reported with recommendation. Vice Chair Frisbie moves to excuse absent members. I might also note that Representative Posthumous and Breen did give prior notice, so that's very much appreciated. There being no objections to that, that passes unanimously. And with that, there's no further business in front of this committee. House, this committee stands adjourned.